各位线上观众，大家好，欢迎收看全民开讲终结假案系列论坛，我是今天的主持人。最近的新闻都非常的骇人听闻，令人难过，发生一堆让大家觉得不可思议的事情。1996年，民国85年，台湾第一次民选总统。1996年11月，发生了刘邦有血案与彭婉如命案等几起重大刑事命案，举国震惊。这些案件迟迟无法破案，时至今日真相仍然不明。法务部1996年7月起例行民国85年全国扫黑行动方案，数个月后于1996年12月19日波及到古老气功武术门派太极门。历经10年多的司法缜密审理，在2007年7月13日，司法三审判决确定太极门无罪、无欠税、无违反税捐稽征法，且全数被告均获国家冤狱赔偿。这是国家还给太极门清白与公道，全国上下都必须遵守最高法院的判决。接下来，我们一起来看一部微电影《谁偷走了他们的青春》。
Taiwan, a magnificent island, hailed by many as a beacon of democracy in a region plagued by non-democratic regimes. Visitors to Taiwan not only appreciate its natural beauties. They visit gardens, museums, and temples, and enjoy a millennia-old Chinese culture. The rich variety of religions present in Taiwan testifies religious liberty is affirmed and protected. Yet, on December 19, 2021, visitors to Taipei noticed thousands of people in the streets, protesting that for 25 years they had not been protected by democracy, and their right to religious liberty had been violated. In the last few years, scholars and human rights activists throughout the world have often heard the name of these protesters. Taiji Men is a menpai, similar to a school of Qigong, martial arts, and self-cultivation. Dr. Hong Taozu, the Grand Master, Zhang Menrun, of Taiji Men, has inherited the wisdom of esoteric Taoism and studied Qigong, martial arts, medicine, yin-yang philosophy, life wisdom, and heart kung fu since a very young age. After martial law was lifted in Taiwan, he started to widely accept disciples, teaching them a path to good health and happiness. There are now 15 Taiji Men academies. Dr. Hong also promoted high-profile initiatives for world peace and brought traditional Taiji Men culture abroad through over 3,000 cultural events and martial arts performances. Dr. Hong has visited more than 100 countries and has become a familiar figure in international peace gatherings and initiatives held at the United Nations. In 2014, Taiji Men was part of a coalition that launched the movement of an era of conscience. The initiative was praised by offices of the United Nations and the heads of state of several countries, with the participation of people in 200 nations, and eventually led the UN to proclaim April 5 as the International Day of Conscience. The bell's sound has also a spiritual significance in many Eastern and Western religions. Dr. Hong designed and supervised the construction of the Bell of World Peace and Love, which was first rung in Singapore in the year 2000. Taiji Men invites world political, cultural, and religious leaders to ring them, making a wish for peace. Dr. Hong devotes a large part of his time to teach Dizzy, similar to disciples, and interview each of them before they are accepted as Dizzy. There is a traditional Taiji Men ceremony after the acceptance. Dizzy show their gratitude to Dr. Hong by giving gifts in the form of the so-called red envelopes to Shifu, Grand Master, as is traditional in Chinese Qigong Menpai. Everybody understands this is part of a personal relation Dizzy have with their Shifu. Several presidents and other high authorities in Taiwan have praised Taiji Men and Dr. Hong for their contribution to the public welfare of Taiwan and for being excellent ambassadors of Chinese culture throughout the world.
Under the Zhang Menren's leadership, Taiji Men has actively participated in international events, raised Taiwan's global visibility. In the future, I also hope that Taiji Men under Dr. Hong's leadership will continue to work with the government that will see Taiwan.
How is it possible that, at the same time, Taiji Men is praised and persecuted? When martial law ended in 1987, religious liberty was officially proclaimed. However, during a long post-authoritarian phase, the ruling party still expected religious organizations to actively support the government. Those who didn't were persecuted. The 1996 repression targeted some of the largest religious movements in Taiwan, including the Buddhist organization Fo Guangshan and Iguan Dao. Notwithstanding its caution in not taking political sides, Taiji Men was also involved in the crackdown, and Dr. Hong was detained together with his wife and two Dizzy. Dr. Hong was falsely and ridiculously accused by a prosecutor who violated the law and abused his authority of raising goblins, a practice totally foreign to Taiji Men. On July 13, 2007, the Criminal Division of the Supreme Court of Taiwan pronounced the final acquittal of Taiji Men defendants, declaring them innocent of all charges. The Supreme Court also declared there was no tax evasion. National compensation for the wrongful detention was given to Dr. Hong and his co-defendants who had been detained. This should have been the end of the Taiji Men case. However, they tried to maintain their tax bills for the years 1991 to 1996, claiming that the money Dr. Hong had received in these years in the red envelopes should not be considered as non-taxable gifts, but as tuition fees for a so-called cram school, a school where pupils receive crash courses, normally in preparation for exams. Different authorities intervened in the controversy, including the Ministry of Education, which has authority on cram schools, and courts of law. All declared that in the Taiji Men case there was no cram school and no tax evasion. For the second time, the Taiji Men case should have ended there, but this did not happen. In 2019, the NTB, in accordance with the ruling of the Supreme Administrative Court and the Taipei High Administrative Court, agreed that tax bills for the years 1991 and 1993 to 1996 should be corrected to zero, but maintained the tax bill for 1992, including penalties. Logically, this did not make sense, as the content of the red envelopes in 1992 was not different from the other years. In this case, the verdict of the criminal section of the Supreme Court of 2007 that found Dr. Hong and Taiji Men not guilty of tax evasion. Nonetheless, the NTB refused to cancel the tax bill for 1992. On May 5 and July 23, 2020, the Taipei High Administrative Court wrote twice to the NTB for the central area, asking them to treat 1992 as the other years were treated. This also was to no avail. In August 2020, land belonging to Dr. Hong that had been seized was auctioned by the National Enforcement Agency, then confiscated after 2 auctions were not successful. This property was important for Taiji Men, which planned to build a center for self-cultivation on what they consider a sacred land. Hence the protests, which also targeted what Taiji Men and others perceived as the unfairness of the Taiwanese tax system in general and the immoral system of bonuses. Why did the Taiji Men case last longer with respect to other groups that had been involved in the 1996 crackdown on spiritual movements, and in fact is still not solved after more than 25 years? One answer is that Taiji Men refused to compromise with the NTB. By settling, they would have admitted that they had been guilty of tax evasion, something that is both against their principles and factual truth. Ultimately, the Taiji Men cases and protests are not about taxes or money. They are about freedom of religion or belief. Taiji Men was not raided in 1996 and persecuted ever since, because the authorities really suspected it was guilty of tax evasion. In fact, in 2021, a sensational testimony emerged proving that those who started the Taiji Men case knew that the accusation of tax evasion was fabricated. In a video, the late tax collector Shi Yusheng was heard confessing that prosecutor Ho Quan-jen, the main instigator of the persecution of Taiji Men, told him to lie to fabricate a false tax case against Dr. Hong and the movement.
你是说他找你去只是做做样子而已，就是你不管说什么，反正他写他的，是不是？他知道是，有什么安排。
Why was the lie fabricated? The root cause was the attempt to destroy a spiritual movement that taught its disciples to think with their own heads. Authoritarian bureaucrats and corrupt officials are always afraid of those who dare think independently and follow their own conscience. This is also why thousands in the world admire and respect Dr. Hong and Taiji Men. This is why hundreds of scholars and human rights activists support the Taiji Men cause. This is why the case of Taiji Men was repeatedly denounced in international forums, including at the United Nations.
In June 2021, we brought to attention to the Human Rights Council the case of the Taiji Men. We denounced how the tax weapon was used to arm Taiji Men. In September, at the 88th Human Rights Council session, we renewed our appeal for Taiji Men. This time, we highlighted the confiscation of this Taiji Men place of worship by the Taiwanese government.
Those in Taiwan who believe this protest will simply go away with the passing of time are wrong. Protests have now lasted for more than 25 years. As the title of a book about the case suggests, the youth of more than one generation has been stolen, as they had to spend their best years asking time and again for a justice denied. But they did not give up. Generation after generation of Taiji men will continue to fight until the case is solved. More and more in the world will support them. In this sense, we are all Taiji men.
太极门案件真相已经大白，他们本就无罪无欠税，至始至终就是假案整肃。国家必须立即平反太极门1219案件，立即归还太极门师徒的修行圣地，并恢复太极门师徒的名誉。国家不能再强加酷刑给人民，不能再迫害人民，这才是真正的民主法治国家应有的样子。衷心期盼国家进步，人民安康。谢谢大家。